The story of human warfare does not begin with kings, nations, or great armies. It begins long before history was written, long before people understood the meaning of borders or power. To understand how wars truly began, we must go back tens of thousands of years, to a time when humans lived in small bands, surrounded by a world far more dangerous than anything we know today. These early people were not warriors in the way we imagine, yet their lives carried the seeds of conflict that would eventually shape the destiny of every civilization that followed. In the ancient world, survival was everything. Food, water, shelter, these were not just needs, they were life or death struggles. When two groups of early humans found themselves depending on the same river, the same hunting ground, or the same fertile valley, tension began to rise. At first, these encounters may have been nothing more than fearful stares from a distance. But slowly, competition began to take shape. What started as mere skirmishes began to be more and more of a method. It was conflict, what slowly changed borders. Simple intimidation grew into pushing, ambushing, and eventually open conflict. Not because people were naturally violent, but because resources were limited and survival demanded control over the land that sustained them. Archaeological discoveries help us piece together these early conflicts. Scientists have found ancient skeletons with wounds caused by stone weapons, some dating back more than 10,000 years. These injuries tell a quiet story, one where humans had already begun to fight over territory, protection, and dominance. But what makes these discoveries remarkable is that they show us something deeper. Conflict was not an invention, but an evolution. It emerged slowly, shaped by need, opportunity, and fear. This was not yet war, but it was the first step toward it. As human groups grew, so did their ambitions. Tribes began to settle near rivers and fertile plains, discovering farming and building permanent homes. These new communities created something the world had never seen before: ownership. Land became valuable, harvests became precious, and protecting what you had became essential. Once people settled, they built boundaries, simple at first, but powerful in meaning. A line of stones, a wooden fence, even a row of planted trees could represent territory. And wherever boundaries exist, the potential for conflict follows close behind. The earliest leaders were not kings sitting on thrones. They were respected hunters, wise elders, or strong protectors chosen by their tribe. Their authority came from trust and leadership, not royal blood. But as settlements grew larger, leaders gained more influence, and with influence came responsibility. When another tribe threatened crops or water supplies, the leader had to make a choice. Do you defend, do you negotiate, or do you strike first? These decisions slowly transformed leaders into strategists and ordinary tribes into organized groups capable of coordinated action. This is where humanity took another step toward the creation of war. Trade also played a surprising role in the rise of conflict. As communities developed unique resources, stone, timber, pottery, people began exchanging goods across long distances. Trade routes connected tribes that had never met before. These routes brought wealth, ideas, and new opportunities, but they also attracted the attention of groups hoping to control them. Suddenly, protecting trade became essential. Controlling trade became even more valuable. And once something becomes valuable, it becomes worth fighting for. But perhaps the most important change came from something far more personal: identity. As humans formed tribes, they created stories about who they were. These stories, shared myths, rituals, symbols, gave people a sense of belonging. But belonging also meant separation. If your tribe was us, then another tribe became them. And this simple division shaped the way people viewed the world. When fear, pride, or suspicion entered the picture, even small disagreements could turn into serious confrontations. A hunting ground dispute, a stolen animal, or even a misunderstanding could escalate into violence because identity demanded loyalty and defense. Slowly, the pieces of early warfare came together: competition for resources, territorial boundaries, growing populations, leaders making strategic decisions, trade routes worth protecting, and identities worth defending. These elements transformed simple conflict into something organized. Small skirmishes turned into raids. Raids turned into planned attacks. Groups learned to coordinate, to use terrain to their advantage, to create weapons designed not just for hunting, but for confronting other humans. This was the birth of strategy, the birth of planning, and the beginning of something far more powerful than simple survival. Scholars believe that the earliest true battles were not grand events with thousands of fighters. They were small encounters, dozens of people, simple weapons, and short engagements. Yet these early battles carried the same emotions found in wars today: fear, courage, loyalty, revenge, and the hope of victory. These moments taught humans lessons they never forgot. A tribe that learned to fight effectively gained power. A tribe that avoided fighting lost ground. Over time, this created a natural pressure to become more organized, more strategic, and more aware of the importance of defense and attack. The real origins of war were not heroic or dramatic. They were practical. Humans fought because they needed to survive, because they wanted to protect their families, because resources were scarce, and because the world around them demanded strength. No one invented war. It emerged on its own, shaped by the challenges of the ancient world, growing slowly from conflict into organized violence, and eventually into the massive wars that would define human history.